Picture the exact moment it happens. Banks freeze up, gas stations run dry within a day, and the grocery store 2 miles from your house has empty shelves by the second morning because nobody restocked the trucks. That's not a movie plot. That's just what happens when the systems you've never thought twice about stop running all at once, and most families don't think about any of it until they're standing in an empty kitchen wondering what's next. Here's the promise for this video. 12 firearms. Not 20, not 50. 12 that cover food, defense, and ammo you can actually find when the shelves are already picked clean. A lot of you already own several of them right now, sitting in a safe, inherited from a father or grandfather, never fired, barely looked at since the day it came into the house. Number 1 on this list is a firearm sitting in more family safes than people realize. Now let's start with the gun everyone forgets about until food becomes the actual problem. Number 12. Ruger 1022. The Ruger 1022 shoots .22 long rifle, and that one detail changes everything about how useful it is. Low recoil, light ammo, and you can carry 500 rounds in a bag without your shoulder knowing it. This is the gun for small game and for practice, and in a situation where every calorie and every ounce matters, that's not a small thing. Here's the family-safe reality. Almost every household has one of these tucked away somewhere. Grandpa's plinker, the one he took to the range on Saturdays, usually comes with a couple of spare magazines and zero paperwork. Nobody wrote anything down because nobody thought it needed writing down. Before you touch it, check that it's unloaded, then check the magazine actually seats and locks the way it should. Look at the factory markings on the receiver, because that tells you the era and sometimes the exact model. Run a light down the bore and look for pitting or heavy fouling, and cycle the action a few times to confirm it functions the way it's supposed to. Now, I want to be straight with you. This rifle won't stop a threat, and it won't feed a family of 4 for a season. What it does is stretch your other resources further, and it does it quietly, with ammo that's cheap and light enough to stockpile without a second thought. Grandpa's plinker was never built to win a fight. It was built to put something in the pot without burning through ammo you can't replace. Number 11. .357 Magnum Lever Action Rifle. A lever action chambered in .357. Magnum runs on the same manual action your great-grandfather would recognize, and that simplicity is exactly the point. No gas system, no extra parts to fail, just a lever you work by hand every time. And here's the smart part. If you also own a .357 revolver, both guns share the same ammo, which means one box of rounds does double duty across 2 firearms. This is the rifle that looks old-fashioned sitting in the corner of a safe, and most heirs walk right past it, assuming it's just a hunting gun from another decade. It is a hunting rifle, but it's also a rifle that still earns its space today because it's accurate at a useful range and it doesn't ask much of the person running it. Work the action through a full cycle first, feeling for grit or hesitation, since that lever needs to move smooth every single time. Check the chamber marking stamped right on the barrel so you know exactly what it's built to fire. Look down the tube magazine for rust or dents, and never load anything but the exact ammo that marking calls for. Here's something worth sitting with. Newer rifles often assume one experienced shooter. A lever gun with a plain, familiar design means more than one adult in the house can pick it up and understand it fast. And that matters more than people think when a household has to split up tasks. Food and practice cover a lot of ground. Close range, and the door to your house is a different problem, and that's where the revolver comes in. Number 10. Smith & Wesson, Model 686, or other .357 revolver. Picture this. You open a drawer in the safe and find a revolver wrapped in an old cloth, cylinder closed, no holster, no box, no note about where it came from. That's how most people meet a gun like the Smith & Wesson 686, and it's more common than you'd think, sitting quiet in a family's safe for years without anyone thinking to ask about it. A revolver like this keeps things simple in a way autoloaders can't match. Open the cylinder, look at every chamber, and you know instantly what's loaded and what isn't. No slide to rack, no magazine to check, just a direct look and a direct answer. And because it's chambered in .357 Magnum, it'll also run .38 Special, which gives you a wide family of ammo to draw from depending on what's available. Here's a mistake I see all the time with inherited revolvers. People assume that because it looks clean, it's safe to shoot. Looking clean and being mechanically sound are two different things, and that gap is where people get hurt. Before anything else, check the cylinder lockup. It should feel tight when closed, with no wobble or play. Find the barrel marking to confirm the exact chambering and pull whatever serial records exist, because that number can tell a gunsmith more about the gun's history than you'd expect. Then take it to a qualified gunsmith for a real inspection before you ever load a round through it. A revolver covers you at close range when things get tight, and the Glock 19 shows up in more family safes than most people are willing to admit. Number 9. Glock 19. The Glock 19 shows up in more homes than almost any other handgun made, and there's a reason for that. It's a 9mm pistol, and 9mm is about as easy to find as ammo gets, which means parts and magazines for this thing are everywhere too. It sits at a size that works for most hands, small enough to carry, big enough to shoot well. Here's the family-safe reality most people won't say out loud. A lot of these got bought, locked away, and never touched again. Someone felt better having it in the house, and that's a real reason to own one. But a gun nobody's practiced with is a gun that'll let you down exactly when you need it most. Before you do anything else, confirm the model marking on the slide so you know what generation you're holding. Check the magazines for cracked feed lips or a weak spring, since that's usually the first part to wear out. Look over the sights to see if they're still tight and aligned, and figure out where this thing actually lives now. Locked up, accessible, or just sitting in a drawer somewhere. And if this pistol came from someone other than you, look into the legal transfer rules in your state before you consider it yours on paper. A pistol you've actually handled, dry-fired, and put rounds through beats 3 pistols you've never touched. A handgun handles close range when things get tight in a room. A shotgun handles something bigger, the door itself. Number 8. Mossberg 500 or 590. Picture it propped in the back corner of a closet, barrel leaning against the wall, buried behind winter coats and old boxes for years. That's how a lot of families find their pump shotgun, and it's usually a Mossberg 500 or 590, bought for the house or the field and then left standing there once life got busy. A pump shotgun like this does one job and does it without complication. Rack the slide, pull the trigger, rack it again. No gas system pulling gunk into the action, no delicate parts that jam if you look at them wrong, and it covers ground a rifle or pistol can't touch the same way. Close range, home defense, field use for birds or small game. Here's why it beats out shotguns that look more impressive on paper. It's common, it's tough, and Mossberg's built millions of these things, which means parts are everywhere and gunsmiths know them inside and out. Check the chamber length marking on the barrel first, because that tells you whether you're dealing with a 2 3/4 inch or 3-inch gun, and that changes what ammo is safe to run through it. Run the action bars through a full cycle a few times, feeling for grit or rough spots, and check underneath the forend for rust, since that's a spot people forget to look. A shotgun that fits your shoulder wrong or kicks harder than you expect isn't going to help you under stress, no matter how tough the gun is. Fit and practice decide whether this thing works for you when it counts. 6 firearms down, 6 left to go, and this is where the list stops being about single-purpose tools and starts building towards something closer to a full picture. If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel, and it means more videos like this one. The next 6 firearms take a mixed bag sitting in a family safe and turn it into something with actual range, reach, and depth. And number 1 is still ahead of us. A firearm that's common, easy to overlook, and already sitting in more safes than most people realize. Let's start with the rifle family's mistake for nothing more than an old hunting gun. Number 7. Remington 700 or similar bolt-action hunting rifle. Say you find a rifle wrapped in an old wool blanket at the back of the closet, scope still mounted, a worn sling still attached, scratches on the stock from being hauled through the woods every November for years. That's how a bolt-action hunting rifle usually turns up, and it's the gun most families already have without ever thinking of it as part of any bigger plan. A rifle like the Remington 700 built its reputation on deer season, and that reputation is earned. It's accurate at range, it's built for the field, and generations of hunters have trusted this exact design to put meat on the table when it counts. That worn sling and scratched stock tell a story no piece of paper ever will, and sometimes the wear on the gun carries more of the family's history than any paperwork sitting in a drawer. Now, run a light through the bore first and look for pitting or heavy fouling, since that tells you more about how this rifle was cared for than almost anything else. Then confirm the chamber marking. Cycle the bolt through its full range, checking for smooth feeding and a solid lockup. Look the stock over for cracks near the grip and where it meets the action, and check the scope mounts for looseness. Pay close attention to any rust forming near the action itself, since that's where moisture tends to settle first and do the most damage. Here's a rule worth keeping in mind. Condition grading affects what a rifle like this is worth to a collector, but that's a separate question from whether it's safe to fire. Function comes first, value comes second. A bolt gun gives you range and accuracy, but speed is what the Mini 14 trades for it. Number 6. Ruger Mini 14. The Mini 14 takes the same ranch rifle idea and gives it a semi-auto action, so instead of working a lever or a bolt between shots, you just pull the trigger again. It's built light, looks like something you'd see racked in a truck for coyotes rather than a rifle built for a fight. And it earns a spot on this list because it's simple to run and doesn't intimidate people the way some rifles do. The layout is plain. No complicated controls, no learning curve that scares off a nervous heir who's never held anything bigger than a .22, and it shares that broad 5.56 or .223 caliber family. So ammo isn't some rare thing you have to hunt down. Confirm the exact model first, because Ruger's made several variations over the decades, and the differences matter for parts and magazines. Check that a magazine actually seats and locks without wiggling, and look at the barrel for wear near the muzzle. This rifle covers distance and speed both, but the M1A carries a different kind of weight. It wasn't built for a ranch, it was built for a war. Number 5. M1A or M14 type rifle. An M1A chambers a full-power rifle round, and that single fact changes everything about what this gun is for. More range, more punch-down range, and a cartridge that'll do things a 5.56 rifle simply can't. But full power comes with a cost. This thing is heavy, the ammo is heavier, and carrying enough of it to matter will wear a person down fast. A lot of these sit in family safes as collector pieces rather than daily use firearms, and that's usually the right way to think about them. Someone in the family wanted a civilian version of a rifle they respected, bought it, shot it a handful of times, and it's been resting in a case ever since. Confirm the civilian model markings, since that tells you what you're actually holding and rules out anything requiring extra paperwork. Check the magazine type, because M14 and M1A magazines aren't always interchangeable depending on the exact configuration. Look over the stock fit, dig up any provenance papers if they exist, and get a gunsmith to look over the action before you fire it, since these rifles see a lot of pressure with every round. Here's the part worth sitting with. More power doesn't automatically mean a better choice for every person or every task. A rifle that wears out the person carrying it before the day's half over isn't doing anyone any favors. Raw power gives way now to something built to survive rough handling, generation after generation. Number 4. A K-pattern rifle. An AK pattern rifle runs on a manual of arms that barely changed since it was designed, and that's not an accident. Dirt, mud, neglect, none of it stops this action the way it stops more delicate designs. It fires an intermediate cartridge that splits the difference between a full-power rifle round and something smaller, giving it real range without the weight problem the M1A carries. These show up in family collections more than people expect, often bought during a specific decade when they were cheap and plentiful, and then set aside once the novelty wore off. Before you assume anything about what you're holding, check the country markings stamped into the receiver, because AKs got built all over the world, and the differences matter for parts, value, and even legality depending on where you live. Look at the magazine pattern to confirm it actually matches the rifle. Check the chamber marking, and take note of any aftermarket parts someone bolted on, since that changes both function and what the rifle's worth to a collector. Clear the action and confirm it's unloaded first. Check the rivets holding the receiver together and the condition of the stock, run a light through the bore, test the safety, and make sure whatever magazine you're using actually locks in without play. If this rifle came down to you without much explanation, don't start swapping parts or making changes before you know exactly what you've got. An unmodified example can carry collector value that a customized one loses the second someone starts drilling holes in it. A rifle built to survive rough handling gives way now to a shotgun built around a different problem: keeping up under stress when speed matters more than toughness. Number 3. Benelli M4 or proven semi-auto shotgun. A shotgun like this usually wasn't an impulse buy. Someone in the family researched it, saved up, and treated it as a real decision about protecting the house, the kind of purchase you think through for months. Then it went in the safe, and the training that was supposed to follow never happened. A semi-auto shotgun like the Benelli M4 cycles itself, so instead of racking a pump between shots, you just pull the trigger again, and it's ready. That's a real advantage when follow-up shots matter, but it comes with a trade-off. More moving parts means more things that can go wrong if the gun isn't kept clean and maintained. And a gun like this asks more of the person running it than a plain pump does. Check the chamber marking first to confirm what it's built to run. Look over the gas system, since that's the part doing the actual work of cycling the action, and gas guns need regular cleaning to keep functioning the way they're supposed to. Confirm the parts are original rather than swapped from another model, and note the factory markings. Complexity only pays off if the person holding this thing actually knows how to run it and keep it clean. A semi-auto shotgun that jams because nobody ever maintained it is worse than a plain pump gun that never lets you down. Number 2. AR-15. The AR-15 stays light in the hands, chambered in 5.56 or .223, and that combo means magazines and parts sit on shelves in more stores than almost any other rifle caliber out there. Recoil stays mild too, which matters when more than one person in a house might need to pick it up and use it. Here's the common setup I run into with inherited AR-15s. A relative bought the rifle, added some parts nobody documented, maybe an optic that's older than the rifle itself, and left behind a stack of magazines with no notes on what fits what. That's not a rare situation. That's the normal one. Confirm the chamber stamp on the barrel first. That tells you exactly what it's built to fire. Check for a barrel twist marking if the rifle has one stamped or engraved, since that number tells you what bullet weights the barrel actually stabilizes well. Look over every magazine for cracks or a weak spring, and run a full safe function check before you ever consider loading it. Here's what I'll say and leave alone for now. The next firearm on this list looks plainer than an AR-15, simpler even, and yet it fills a gap that no rifle on this entire list actually covers. The final firearm isn't exotic. That's exactly why it earns the top spot. Number 1. The plain 12-gauge pump shotgun. Number 1 is the Remington 870 or the Mossberg 500. And if that feels like an anticlimax, sit with it for a second. This is the most common firearm sitting in American family safes. Bought for the house, bought for the field, sometimes bought for both without anyone thinking twice about it. Here's why it earns the top of this list over everything we've covered. A 12-gauge pump handles defense at close range, it handles hunting in the field, and it does both with an action so plain a teenager can learn it in an afternoon. Every gun before this one asks something specific of the person holding it: precision, recoil management, an understanding of a magazine system. This one just asks you to rack it and pull the trigger. Common beats exotic here for one plain reason: parts exist everywhere. Gunsmiths know this action cold, and generations of households have already worked out every problem this gun could have. That's decades of real-world use built into a design nobody's had to reinvent. Check the exact chamber length stamped on the barrel, because that determines what shells are safe to load. Look over the barrel markings to confirm what choke or configuration you are actually holding. Cycle the action fully, checking for rust, especially around the receiver and under the forend where moisture likes to collect. Look the stock over for cracks near the grip and pull whatever serial record exists so you know exactly what you've inherited. Respect what this gun can't do on its own. Recoil adds up fast over a shooting session, fit against your shoulder changes how controllable it is, and safe loading habits aren't something you improvise under stress, they're something you build ahead of time through practice. A shotgun nobody's practiced with is just dead weight with a trigger. So here's the decision point. Document it, inspect it, secure it, and teach every capable adult in the house how to handle it safely and lawfully. That's the whole job. Now run this entire list against your own safe before you assume you know what's sitting in it. 12 firearms start to finish. The 10-22, the .357 lever rifle, a .357 revolver, the Glock 19, a Mossberg 500 or 590, a bolt-action hunting rifle, the Mini 14, an M1A, an AK pattern rifle, a semi-auto shotgun, an AR-15, and the plain 12-gauge pump that closes the list out. Check your own safe before you buy anything new. A lot of families already own a good chunk of this list and don't realize it. Document the make, model, and serial number on everything you find. Note the factory markings and condition, and write down whatever family notes exist, even second-hand ones, because that context disappears fast once nobody's left to ask. Confirm lawful possession on anything that changed hands without paperwork. Keep everything stored securely, and get a qualified inspection before anyone fires a round through an inherited gun. That's the whole foundation this list rests on. Lawful ownership, secure storage, and real training before any of these 12 guns actually matter. Then talk to your family. Figure out who actually knows this collection exists and who's capable of handling it safely, because a safe full of firearms nobody can account for isn't a plan. It's a liability waiting on a bad day. Now, to count how many of these 12 are already sitting in your family's safe and drop that number in the comments. If you want more of these breakdowns on what's in the safe and what it's actually for, subscribe. An unchecked safe doesn't hold a plan. It just holds unknowns, waiting for someone to finally open the door and ask the right questions.